Hey everyone, this is Mani Iyer here from Quanzu. Um, Here to kick off this session. We are doing this AMA session on scaling sales outreach with AI and automation. Um, we are really excited. Have a couple of great speakers here with us. There's Pardees Safizadeh of 923 Studio, and also with me is Rahul Wadhwa, who's the co-founder of School of SDR. I'm going to bring them into the conversation shortly. But again, today's session is uh, we are excited. It's really all about helping marketing and sales teams, go-to-market teams at B2B companies who are trying to do a better job, more effective outreach into the market, trying to sign more customers, expand their businesses, upsell, cross-sell, expansion, and so forth. Before we get to the agenda, actually, let me turn it over to our speakers here to do some quick introductions. And so I'll stop sharing for a minute, and then let's have a quick introduction to our speakers. Pardees, over to you.
Thanks, Manny. Hey, everybody. I'm Pardees. As Manny said, I'm the CRO of 923 Studios. What I've done so far in my past is I've been on the marketing side, sales side, and customer success side for startups and agencies alike. I also was part of 4 acquisitions, the last one being my own marketing go-to-market agency that I got acquired by 923 Studio. So I'm here to kind of talk more about marketing-led sales-led marketing, and how like the two kind of interact, and then I'll pass it over to Rahul so he can introduce himself as well.
Thank you so much for these. Thank you, Mani, for having me. I'm the co-founder of School of SDR. As the name suggests, we do everything around SDR. One of the story I want to tell everybody is how School of SDR came into picture. I'm a huge fan of Jack Black. I watched School of Rock, and that's the first name I thought of, and hence we got School of SDR. Very simple, very easy to understand. I have been into the SDR space, B2B SDR space for 9 years. That's all I've done. That's all I know. I have been associated with marketing teams and different, top growing startups like What Makes Charge Be. I've been part of 1 acquisition, not as many as Pardees has. But yeah, excited to be here and excited to talk about everything Mani has planned for us.
Thanks, Rahul. And so, Pardees, since Rahul gave us a bit of the backstory of School of SDR, is there any story behind your firm name, 923?
Yep. So the founders of the firm used to work from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. every single night on their first startup idea. So when that one got exited and they went to go on to the next company, they thought about 923 as their name.
Fair enough. That's an interesting little story. So for what it's worth, since you guys brought up your backstories, I'll bring up the Quanzu backstory. So if for those of you who've seen the movie Jerry Maguire, there's a line that's saying, "Show me the Quan." And so Quan, the guy goes, "What's Quan?" He says, "Love, respect, community, and the dollars, the whole package, the Quan." So we did a play on that and came up with a company named Quanzu. But of course, as you guys know, and hopefully folks watching know a little, might have seen us a little bit on LinkedIn. Quanzu is it's a B2B. We are a B2B. We built out a B2B growth platform for companies that are. We're offering it to companies that are SaaS companies, software, mid-market IT services firms, and so on. We have a unique capability we've launched recently, getting a lot of interest in the market around buyer level identity resolution, where we can tell these companies who showed up on their website at the individual level, right? So first name, last name, work email, LinkedIn URL, mobile number, and so on. It has, of course, we think, a lot of value for SDRs and BDRs and sales teams. I know we're going to cover a lot of topics around outreach with AI and automation, so I'm looking forward to that conversation, Pardees, with both you and Rahul. So let me get to the next thing here, which is just to tee it up in terms of our audience. I just want to set up the agenda for today's session, and then we'll get into it. So I'm going to share my screen again with the agenda. So 1 second, coming right up. So entire screen, click, share. And so the AMA session, what we've got planned is these are the agenda topics. One is in 2024, what is working and what's not for sales outreach. I guess that our follow up to that is going to be how do these outreach tactics change with the ideal customer profile that a B2B company might be targeting, the personas they are targeting within those companies, the industries, if it changes at all by industries, if it changes at all by products and their ACV, low ACV, mid, high ACV type of product, anything around competition, what the competitive landscape might look like. So that's what we'll dive into as kind of call it the second key topic. And then the third one is around as a B2B software SaaS company scales from being founder-led to now they're ready to, let's say, do a rep-led sales motion with a few different folks, in the SDR, BDR team, maybe, a few account execs. What are some do's and don'ts for them? And finally, of course, a lot of buzz, a lot of discussion going on, out on LinkedIn and all over the industry around the AI SDR, right? What's real today, what's possible today, and where are we headed? So, guys, as you can see, we have a lot to cover, but hopefully we'll keep things moving here. So let me kick off with the first question to both of you. So how do you see the kind of the state of sales outreach today? Pradeep, if you want to go first.
Sure. So I kind of see it as in flux, kind of like it still works for certain industries and it's not really working anymore for others. I think it really depends on, we'll get into it, like your competition, your ICP, who are you actually competing against? Like how strong is your message? Can it really cut through like 3,000 other emails that are coming into someone's inbox at any given time? And how likely are your prospects to want to answer the phone for a number they don't know? Then we can also talk about the expense of having SDR. That's where the jury is out for me, because in the United States, it's gotten very expensive to have these SDRs funded. So I'm sure Rahul is going to have his own opinion on that, which I'm very excited to hear about too.
Yeah, I've been talking to a lot of companies from Europe, UK, UAE, everywhere who's trying to hire in India now because of the whole thing getting expensive, and they're all trying to sell to the US. So it's not even making sense. So you're actually you got the pulse right, and I thought. And I think because we train SDRs who are targeting different industries, different geographies. So we see that what works in one, of course, does not work in another. So I have recently trained a company which is selling into discrete manufacturers in UAE, India, and some in the US, and they are relying completely on the phone. So one thing I can tell you, what has not changed is the phone. While we're talking about AI SDR, and I think Mani has, probably touched the bomb here. We're going to take that up in a few minutes. But I think if you're talking about what has not changed, I think phone has not changed. Phone will continue to dominate. However, yes, we can of course debate on the fact that once everybody starts calling, and while we have these sophisticated system, and one day AI SDR starts calling in my voice, I think that's the day we are waiting for to take over. But phone call is working. I know industries. We are training, especially when you're selling sales tech. I think all the multi-channel is working. LinkedIn is working for them because people like us are on LinkedIn all the time, and I think we are responding to almost every message, every email as a courtesy. Sometimes we really like the messaging, and I think it depends a lot on the industries you're targeting.
So, can you give then maybe a couple of examples of certain industries or certain, call it, kinds of personas where, it tends to work more or better when, you cannot rely on LinkedIn, right? Or you have to make phone calls. I mean, you mentioned discrete manufacturing. Are there any others, Pradeep, that comes to mind?
I have a few. So finance, I think the phone will still work for you too. It's like I'm going to just say, like, who is like more of those like older school industries that are still very reliant on the phone for their day-to-day work. You're going to be picking up whoever is calling no matter what. So they'll still be picking up the phone. Now, will that change as people are starting to make like 2 or 3 times the dials they did before? Maybe. So you have to think about that too as you're thinking about like what's the activities the SDR should be doing. I have had a lot of success on LinkedIn with like HR tech startups, marketing tech startups, sales tech, like all these people, they spend their whole time on LinkedIn. Even Instagram sometimes I've had some success there too,
Okay.
because it's just where they are doing their jobs all day. So if that's what they're doing, and even recruiters, like I love selling to recruiters because they always think that someone's going to be like calling them back that they don't have a saved number for. So if you can get the right zip code or the area code or the phone to match where they're recruiting from, they're really likely to open. Like I've had like 50% pickup rates on the phone for recruiting industries, which is really interesting.
Got it. Got it. So you touched upon HR tech, sales tech, marketing tech. Another
Yeah.
huge audience, of course, is IT, right? Whether it's IT directors, VPs, managers, and then talk about tactics for IT. Do's and don'ts. What's the current state? What's working now? Maybe wasn't working last year. What was working last year is not working now. Rahul, if you want to kick it off.
I think the discrete manufacturing thing, which I talked to you about, they're selling all to IT. And
Oh, they are.
for phone is predominantly still dominating there. It was dominating last year. It is still
Okay.
dominating here. And I cannot name the organization, but it's a huge organization, like $1 billion organization. So, and they have like a huge 60, 70 SDR team across, UK, India, UAE, US, and they're all kicking on the phone. I'm not saying that, they're not getting meetings, let's say, from other sources. And one of my go-to has been, irrespective of how the market is, not to rely on one particular form of channel. I would never keep all my eggs in one basket. However, yes, of course, if something is working, I will definitely double down. I mean, if you look at the state of B2B stats report from Pavilion, they talked about the same thing, that if something is working. If you look at 2023 report, they talked about the same thing. You have to learn from what was working even back then. So if something is working, double down. If something is not working, I would say see if you can, probably tweak a few things and make changes. However, I will always diversify, just like we do with the stocks.
So when you think of channels, is it obviously everybody is talking about LinkedIn-based outreach. There's emails, right? There's
Sure.
sales emails, one-to-one sales emails, and then there's of course phone. Is it two of these? Is it all three of these? What do you typically recommend to your customers and clients to pursue as a strategy? And again, I'm just trying to dig in a little bit more, right, into the questions around what's working.
I will always do all three. I mean,
All three.
like Pradesh mentioned, I have not tapped into Instagram. Prior to this, I used to work with a company where we used to reach out to a lot of these retail brands, and we did get some success, I would say, getting a response or at least the right POC. However, it's not like we were able to book a meeting because we're reaching out to these brands who have 100,000 millions of followers. So of course, we're not going to get the decision maker. And I think one of the things which I have recently tried, at least in India, which I've tried, is I've tried handwritten letters, which I'm sending to all the decision makers, and responses have been phenomenal. But again, I know that thing cannot be scaled, but there are ways to go around that. But I'd love to learn more from Pradesh on the Instagram thing.
Yeah, no, it's really fun. So we were finding the actual contacts on Instagram and Instagramming them, like sending it, which it could get a little bit of work, but some people, their Instagram is very, it's findable with like either their last name or their first initial or first name and last name. So it wasn't for everybody, but we could still find some of them who were there. Talking on Rahul's point too, like I love direct mail as another tactic to use because it puts something physical in their hands. Now today it's a little bit difficult because everyone's working from home. So the way that you can usually get around it is that you send them an email being like, hey, we have something for you. Would you like to receive it? And if they say yes, then they'll provide their address and they'll send you something directly to their address. I'm trying to think of who did this. There was a partner-led ecosystem book that someone did, and they made a whole outbound campaign where they wrote this book and they said, you can get this book for free if you give me your address right now. And I filled that address out. That was super smart. Like they made a book about what they wrote and they sent it out to like any executives that's like in like the ecosystem for like, sales, CRO, whatever. And they got all the books out there.
Got it. Okay. And then, so I think this is, again, we've been talking about what is working less this year, right? I just want to finish off the first topic and we'll go on to the second question. But The general theory these days seems to be that emails are working less than last year. Is that true? Is that what you guys are
It's just
seeing?
so much more.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so many more emails. Like even for me, I get like 200 emails a day from
Yeah.
some of these people trying to sell me something.
Okay.
It's very hard to
And
keep
how
it
about, how
annoying.
about LinkedIn? I mean, is there any do's and don'ts on the LinkedIn side this year, like this year versus last year?
So for me, what has worked is I think I have because I think since the time I went full time, I had a lot of time to experiment with a lot more tools which I was not able to do earlier. So in a way, I have kind of automated my system, automated my LinkedIn to the highest extent possible. Where if I want to reach out to 100 people in a week, I'm very picky on whom I want to connect these people to. So I set up these campaigns on the weekend. These campaigns go out. I can track these campaigns, how many of them got accepted, how many of them got turned to meetings. So that is turning out really great for me. And then as far as the email, Pradesh said the same thing. I don't get 200 emails, but yeah, I go to inbox zero at the end of the day, and next morning, you're back to 50. And a lot of them are cold emails. So one thing, because we have GPT, everybody, and not everybody's putting in as much time as we used to in writing those emails. So most of the infrastructure is bad. A lot of emails from huge companies, big conglomerates are actually landing in spam. I just saw something yesterday, somebody posted on this on LinkedIn. So some rep from Google emailed somebody because everybody's pissed with Google, so they mark Google's email now as spam. So that's where. So one thing I would say, Mani, which I have realized in this last 6 or 7 months, which has worked really good for us, is instead of boiling the ocean, I don't believe in boiling the ocean. I think that's where most founders, in fact, I know a lot of your audience is founders, a lot of my audience is founders, where they're trying to boil the whole ocean, where there is absolutely no need, and they are actually spending a lot of time in anyways running these ads, not capturing who is on their website. I remember back in my previous company, we found so many companies who were on a website which was never in our radar. And we were able to book so many meetings with them thinking, oh, you know what, this is not in our ICP, but they were just visiting from a different location. So I think that's where I can see, the stuff which you're doing as well, right? De-anonymizing the whole, and in no way I'm not promoting you, but yeah, I think I truly believe in that stuff. And I'm not actually working on the similar thing right now for our website, where if I can find the companies, 200 companies, let's say we're visiting our website, that's my low-hanging fruit. Why would I go after the whole ocean?
Yeah. Okay. No, that's actually a very good point. So we've finished the first question, which was what is working, what's not. I think we have a good sense of that. Hopefully, the audience does too, along with us. Let's go to the second question. The second question was, do you have any, call it recommendations to our audience about when you're doing this sales outreach, how should your tactics vary or change by whether it's by the ideal customers, ICP profile, whether it's a specific personas, does it change by industry, product competition? So we touched upon that, I think, as we've had this 15 minutes of discussion so far. But can you guys kind of see if there's anything, if we can double click on that, any specific things you want to highlight in terms of where you've seen some dramatic changes in the messaging or the style or the approach, depending on those factors? Pradesh?
Yeah, so selling to like the people instead of the bosses, I think because now all these companies are B2B2C, and sometimes you're able to get more email opens, more LinkedIn connections, and like more engagement when you're going down a level because they're not usually getting an email from someone. And so they almost feel flattered that you reached out to them, which is kind of funny. So like for any of those like B2B2C products, I still think you can do a lot of great automation, kind of like what Rahul was talking about on LinkedIn at scale, and you don't have to worry about boiling the ocean. You're going to be getting some pretty good engagement off that. The things that I've noticed more is like on the newer companies that are coming out, like they don't really pick up their phones as much as the older executives who are out there. So like now we have like 4 generations of executives out there. We have like the Gen Zs, the millennials, the Gen X, and then the baby boomers. I think the baby boomers and Gen X are still on the phone, but the millennials are less so on the phone. And then the Gen Zs are even less on the phone, and they don't even pick up the phone for their friends. So I don't think they're going to pick up their phone for a sales call either. So you have to kind of like think about like the age of the person, and that's why LinkedIn's so beautiful. You can actually go on LinkedIn And if you're not boiling the ocean, you have the time to make these decisions on your own and see like how old is the person, how old is the company, like how do you think their processes are based on the age of the company or the person, and then you can personalize your emails or outlooks or outreach based on that. And I think that's a big thing to kind of think about when you're doing outreach.
Yeah, I think it's a
That-
very
that-
interesting point, and we probably never thought it that way. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud right now. So if I have to run a campaign, imagine if I have, and if I can only send 100 connection requests, I would probably, segment them basis on, when they were born. I mean, that's one of the things which
You could. I've done that before.
No kidding.
It's funny. And some of them like texting too, which is like really weird. I've done a lot of like texting, like after the first contact, they're like, oh, I'm like, can I just text you? And they say yes to texting, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, so we haven't talked a lot about SMS and texting as one more channel, right, on top of your sales emails and phone calls and LinkedIn. So
I wouldn't do it as the first one though. It's like
no, I agree. I
texting
mean,
is
so
one.
we've seen actually. It's interesting you brought that up because we've seen texting and SMS seems to work in what I call a certain kind of personas that are not. They're constantly moving. They're on the road. They're going from point A to point B. So like in construction, solar installers, you name it, right? Like physicians, doctors. So there's certain segment of the personas and audience out there for certain kinds of businesses we've seen. It actually, you have to think about, so you can't think about LinkedIn, that much in that use case. It's really around email and SMS. I don't know about phone call, right? I haven't heard much about phone call, but certainly SMS, we've seen working for some of those kind of audiences. Rahul, over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we talk about texting, I'll take texting as a whole because a lot of my audience also sells to UAE and India and APAC, where WhatsApp is very common. So and there have been times when I was cold calling with them, and I would call these UAE prospects or people in Malaysia. They'll be like, "Hey, I'm actually busy. Can you WhatsApp me?" These people would expect to answer WhatsApp more than emails and calls. I probably belong to a different generation. I probably have been selling to US for a long time. I don't even check my WhatsApp for days sometimes. And I know not everybody in the US is, let's say, super active on this. However, I've had reps in the past and I think one of them was Gen Z, who would hate to cold call, but he put a step in the sequence where 50 text messages would go out and he would get 10 replies. I don't know how he used to reply, and maybe he segmented it that way. But yeah, I mean, I've seen a few people definitely getting much success. I think when we talk about texting, while we're talking about the whole outbound, I think I've seen texting even working, let's say, after we have had the first connection. Because in the past, I would always take permission if I'm selling to Money. Is it okay? Is it your cell phone number? Can I text you? We've seen deals closing. I mean, back in my first SDR role, I remember we provided the entire support to a prospect. It was a $5,000 deal, not much back in the day, 9 years ago. But still, we provided the entire support on the text, and the deal was closed. I mean, I don't have the data to support right now that it can be done at scale. I'm pretty sure there are systems right now to do that. And while we're talking about text, I think we already covered WhatsApp. So yeah, I think WhatsApp works great. I think these can probably talk more about the US in case how texting works. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, one interesting thing I've noticed, guys, is there's the level, the channels that people expect to hear from somebody new that they didn't know, right? I mean, what people are used to, and the point when they are okay to have communication from certain channels. So as you said, Rahul, what we've been learning also is that SMS, texting, WhatsApp comes later in the relationship, meaning if they don't know you at all, they don't really want to hear on those channels because hey, I don't know your company, I don't know you, what the heck, why you bothering me, right? On the other hand, they're okay to get they would tolerate, let's say, a sales email, or they'll be okay with maybe a LinkedIn email. But anyway, you guys have any
WhatsApp definitely is intrusive, and we got the insights from somebody who used to manage a 30-member SDR team selling to APAC, and they had insights which said, if you send a cold WhatsApp, it would not work. It has, I mean, the only time cold WhatsApp worked for them, when they worked with the marketing team, they segmented each and every prospect. They made sure the message was personalized, to Money, to Pradesh, to Rahul. Everybody got a different message, just like the way we do with the email. That's the only time that worked. Otherwise, it will only work when you're calling Money. Money says, I'm busy, send me a WhatsApp. That's the only way. But I agree with you.
So I think this really leads into Pardees. I know you have something very interesting to share with our audience all around. All these people out there, you want to reach them, but you have to personalize, isn't it? You got to have the message be really geared to who they are. I mean, in terms of the ICP, in terms of the audience segment, in terms of the persona, in terms of the product they might be using. Maybe they're using a competitive product. You got to switch them over to your product. You have some kind of a framework, a methodology, an approach that you use constantly for this. If you could please share that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll share it once. All right. Here is my messaging map. And this is what Manny was alluding to. And this can go lower and lower and deeper as you want and make it more and more personalized with each set. But this is what I basically will type into ChatGPT when I'm trying, before I ask it to make me messages, to make sure every part is actually personalized for each person. This will go nicely after Rahul. This is great that we're working together on this. So the first section is just a brand, and you can just get this from, like, hopefully any company has their mission and vision, an overall value proposition, really easy for you to grab somewhere on your drive or whatever you're using on, if you're using Microsoft Outlook. Then I always put the tagline and the company description, and this just gives you enough information about your company for ChatGPT to understand what you're doing. Then I think about the persona. So I split this into 3 different core personas. You can do more if you'd like, but 3 is a nice number to start with. And then I take that value proposition and I personalize it for each of these personas afterwards. Then I'll also add a use case for the persona, and then a personalized tagline is based on the use case and the value proposition. Then we go down to either the service or the product. I'm a services company, so it's services. But then you can actually do 3 services too. They can all relate to each other if you want, or they don't have to. You can mix and match if you want as well. But then I always make like a top level statement for each service. What's like the messaging pillar about that service, and then what's the proof point that you have. And that gives you enough information to throw into ChatGPT for it to make like very specific personalized messages based on any product or service or persona that you're reaching out to. So that, Manny, is my, that's what I put into my prompt. And I think Rahul has a way of making this even personalized even further. So I'm going to stop sharing so he can share his side of things as well.
Sure.
And Pardees, obviously this is great, but maybe as a follow-up or at some point, if you have one example of something filled out, maybe even for
I can send you guys a filled out ones for you to take a look at as well.
Yeah,
it's just
guys,
I just scrub it for proprietary information.
Yeah, fair enough. And then what we'll do is we'll share it out on the our company page, the whatever chat stream we have, and maybe we can find a way to also share in the go-to-market community that we're all part of, which I think I should really do a quick little mention of that here. Which
nice.
is,
maybe I'll fill it out for you, Manny, so we can have a Kwanzaa version.
Fair enough. So, okay, so Rahul, so once the messaging framework map is all built out, I think you've come up with some ways to automate the outreach to scale this up, right? Since this whole session is about scaling with AI and automation. Over to you, Rahul.
Yeah, so we've been talking about, there are fancy tools out there, which sure there are. I'm sure with AI, things are going to get better. But I want to show you something very basic, which works, which does not cost companies hundreds, or even you don't even have to think about, spending more than $50 a month, and it actually does a pretty good job. So I prepared this. In fact, I'll not like to take the credit. It was my SDR team, 2 Gen Zs who came up with the whole idea, because I asked them to automate the shit out of whatever they can. So imagine this is your data sheet, right? You have all these details like first name, last name, company name, and you can either have an intern do it, or maybe, let's say scrape all the information from some sources where you have, let's say I have this person's LinkedIn summary. I could also get their Twitter summary, any other information. For example, I think this was one of the posts which he had mentioned. So I scraped that. And then what I did is I actually tried to combine all this information, because if you look at this in entirety, what we're typically doing when we're writing the email is we are taking, I saw your post about this. or I read on your summary you do this, or I saw you are a co-founder and whatnot. So if you see, we're looking at different variables and we're trying to combine and eventually write an email about it, right? So I thought, imagine if I have 1,000 of these rows, and typically what we would do is we would either try to personalize the first sentence and the rest of the template remain the same. That has been predominantly what teams have been doing in the past. And we're talking about today's age where every single email could be personalized using these AI tools. I'm trying to replicate the same process using a very simple tool called, Google Sheet. I have this extension called GPT for Sheets. It's a free tool. All I need is GPT-4, which costs, I think, $19-20. And then I have loaded about $10 worth of OpenAI credits. So the total cost is $30. It gives me a month. And what I'm going to show you is what I did after that is, first I wrote a prompt, okay? This is my prompt, which is where I'm saying, hey, write an email to this person, and who is, let's say, the managing partner in this company, who's the title at this company, and which is a SaaS company. I'm already describing it. And I'm saying that, hey, I'm trying to get this prospect to reply to my cold email. I need to mention an element of the information that is relevant to the problem. So I really want that prompt to actually work where it is actually using the information which I've already scraped. And then I've given simple instruction is that their LinkedIn profile says this, their Twitter profile says this, and blah, 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 right? Now, if you see, this is how the prompt looks like. I've also given additional information like how I want the email to be. So I have some other rules which I've written like, hey, start the email with personalization and with a question, don't use adverbs. I to you ratio should be 1:2, 100 words max, right? For brevity, do not include blah, blah, blah. And in the end, I've mentioned that in 3 sentences max, you have to do this. So there are simple, rules which are written. And again, I'm happy to share these rules with everybody. Now, if you see all I'm doing is I'm going to show you a quick live demo here. So after GPT extension gets enabled, what I've done is I'm asking GPT to take these instructions, which is this, write an email to so-and-so. And what you see as 1 is simply a creativity level, how creative I want it to be. I could write 0, I could write 0.5, I'm just keeping it 1. So that it's not a gimmick. I'm going to delete all this. This is the formula, okay? I'm going to drag this and show you in real time how this is going to send and actually create. I'm so sorry, I spilled my coffee. It is going to generate 5 different versions of email. And now what I can do is I can download all these emails and simply plug this into my SEP. I'm going to show you some of the email. They're not bad. They're not super good. But if you look at this email, this was generated in 10 seconds, less than 10 seconds actually. Many companies struggle with the challenge of effective communication, blah, blah, blah. Are you open to taking a peek? Look forward to hearing from you. Look at the next email. It's going to be a different email. So yeah, a quick little demo on how you can use Sheets without using complicated systems.
Wow, that was pretty interesting. That was and what would be really cool is I think you've thought through a lot of the kind of customized prompting that's needed, and that level of control. It's interesting. I've seen some of these AI automation tools. They don't necessarily let you go to that level of depth of control, right? In terms of the actual shaping of the message, right? They'll give something, and I've seen Chrome plugins, and that the Chrome plugin basically will spit out some. But what have you seen for these? Any more advanced tools that can? Yeah.
I have a friend who made one that can do something like that, and you can choose if you want to use humor, if you want it to be like more business professional, if you want it to be more scientific. Like it has like almost like a personality to each email that you want to write. And it's funny, and it does work. It's just and again, he had a similar setup with Rahul where you first grab all the information. You can choose what information you want to use, and then you can choose the humor level of it or like what the personality is, and you can kind of get it out there too. But that's really nice, so that you don't have to actually pay for someone else's service. You just use that one to go.
Got it. So
yeah, I've seen some of those as well. However, what I see is sometimes if I choose humor, humor is decided based on the prompt they might have chosen for everybody. It's not something, because, for example, right. I probably might not want to write in a certain language. So if that kind of level, if I were to let's choose the intensity of 0 to 1, that would be probably next level.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So please, yeah. I mean, all these tools and stuff. As I said, we decided to keep it more at a capability level here in this webinar. But you guys can respond, to the video with some specific. If people have questions, they can ask questions. You can give specific, replies on. Okay, this is the tool. You can go look at that. Right. We could do that later. All
Yeah.
right. So let me go. We're 30 plus minutes into our session. We have a lot more to cover. So let's talk about graduating from founder-led to founder-led sales to sales-led, right? Meaning you have a rep-led, a small SDR, PDR team, reps that you want to bring in. Rahul, you had some specific suggestions, thoughts on how a founder should go about building that team, the kind of skills that they'll want to make sure, right, in the core SDR, PDR team, key metrics, what they should expect, week one, month 2. Can you talk about that? And then Pardees, if you can add some color to that, please.
Yeah, I think Pardees and I will have to probably go half an hour on this because it's a long topic. So first thing first, I think if most founders take this route where first they do the sales, founder-led sales, and once they realize they'll hit the max, somebody either tells them, hey, they need to hire an SDR. First of all, I think that is where I feel I see the most problems which founders would have. They don't know when to hire their first SDR. I think either they think they've hit the capacity, and they would think that if they bring an SDR, they would be able to produce the same level of results which they were able to, given their network and connections. And I've seen that the title founder really works, and when an SDR comes, that number just drops and the expectations go low, and then that's where the problem starts. I've seen, because I used to run a campaign in one of the companies using my founder's credentials. And I used to run the same campaign using my email address, using his email address. There was, 70% open, 50% open, 10% reply, 2% reply. I could see the difference, right? So we know for a fact that, SDR might not be able to produce the same level of results. At the same time, the kind of founder-led sales, the cycle when you are in, where you're trying to just get a meeting with everybody, sometimes try to get insights, sometimes try to sell everybody. As and when you're trying to hire the SDR, I think most founders at least have a clarity on now who they want to sell to. So that is where they think, we will bring an SDR who will just do the same thing. But what we have to realize is, I think, especially when we're talking about outbound in 2024, everything has changed. The tools are so sophisticated, right? The infrastructure has gone. Pardees talked about how everybody's receiving 200 emails. We're talking about, US not able to afford the SDR system. In India, we're trying to tackle the problem of how do we bring people who have been selling to India for a long time, how do we make them unlearn what they learned, in a couple of months, try to make them learn the new culture, try to tell them, okay, this is how you sell to the US. So there's just so many areas to look at. Pardees, do you want to add something here?
Yeah, so I would say that your SDRs will never be as successful as you if you don't have a real message to say to them. Because, again, when you're a nice, founder out in the world, everyone wants to help you and give you insights. And it just feels like they're important because they're talking to you. When you're talking to an SDR, everyone feels less important, a lot less important when they're talking to the poor SDR. So you really have to get some sort of message that cuts through and makes them want to talk to the SDR no matter what, or have a report, or have some sort of insights in the industry that the SDR can share, that will make it worth the time for them to actually engage with the SDR versus the founder.
I think bang on. And I think the second step where I see the challenge is a lot of founders are able to at least hire an SDR. First of all, you don't know the skill set which you're looking for when you're hiring for somebody today. Back in the day, you would look for, what can you communicate? Are you confident? Can you talk on the phone? Can you write an email? If you think about this, I just showed you how I can write 500 or 5,000 emails in a minute. Why do I need an SDR if I were running a founder-led motion? And even if, let's say, the kind of email which I showed you, imagine this is, let's say, based on the prompts and based on my kind of style, which has been captured by ChatGPT. But now think about if somebody who has not done sales, or let's say somebody, if I had an SDR, let's say, who has not, for example, done sales for a long time. First, in order for them to beat this kind of system is next to impossible. So one, they have to know the system. They have to love the system. They have to have that curiosity that they can learn the system. If they can't, they're actually just going to be beaten by this. So when people say, oh, AI is going to take your job, AI has taken the job. I have already automated my entire inbound function. So in a way, I have, AI has taken the job, right? So anything else you want to add to these?
Yeah, so they have to be like curious. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Pradeep.
No,
Finish up and I'll ask my question.
You just seem like a really curious, like tech savvy person who can kind of think through these things and learn how to use these tools. Because if they don't know how to use the tools, they're not going to do well on the job, is what I found. And if they're not curious into learning their own things, they're not going to take their own initiative, then they're not going to win because they're going to get outcompeted by every other SDR that's out there that's like a lot more hungry than they are.
So Rahul, my guess is this whole thing is changing output, and right, that a particular SDR can deliver the range, right? I mean, there used to be the more traditional SDR metrics of, hey, two meetings a week and 8 meetings a month, and can you talk about that? Like, what have you seen? It must be shifting, I'm guessing, right, in terms of the better SDRs, or as you said, more tech savvy, figuring stuff out faster, iterating faster. What's the range now? Low, medium, high on production.
So I think there was a time when companies would say, oh, you make 40 calls, you send 50 emails, you send 10 requests a day and go home. I think those days are gone. I think those days are gone. Like, it's been a year since those days are gone. I mean, people have hacked every system possible, where I can now send 200 requests if I want to, when LinkedIn only allows 100. I can, using if I have a good infrastructure, I can send 5,000 emails using a very segmented approach, ensuring my quality and quantity both are hit, right? And the only way I believe SDRs can really shine today is if they know whom to call, when to call, and how to call. Of course, they should be. If they have a tiny opportunity, if somebody's answering the phone, when everybody's saying, "Hey, connect rate has gone down," so you should be like super savvy. You should have practiced that cold call 100 times, where okay, if this person answered, I'm going to convert it, or at least I'm going to get some information out of it. So if a founder led, has to understand how to go about. I think one thing we have to look at is we cannot be going after the quality. We cannot be going after the quantity. It has to be the quantity of the quality. In terms of numbers,
is there any? Yeah, if you can share for the founders listening, right? What expectations, a fair expectation for, call it month 1, month 2, month 3 on?
See, I think if you have never, let's say this is the first month you've never done this before. First, I would say is, of course, set up the system, make sure your systems are in place, then let the system run. And I would say continuously iterate. So if you're sending, let's say, 1,000 emails a day, evaluate that over a week as to how your open rates are performing, your click rates, reply rate, and then you continue to tweak it. So it's like the job of that stock market, right, where you have to continuously monitor it. The moment you see something is going there, you need to change that, you need to stop that sequence, you need to stop that thing to go on. If I were to start this, I think with the sophisticated system which is available out there, where you can have power dialers, I think you can easily make 300, 500 calls a day. At least my goal would be to at least get in front of at least 10 prospects a day, and at least have 10 conversations, convert worst case 2 meetings from the phone itself, then at least 2 to 5 meetings anywhere between on the emails, and rest goes on LinkedIn.
Okay, so I think then thanks, guys. There was some really good information there all around this topic around graduating from founder-led. Let's close it out. Spend a few minutes talk about the AI SDR. Sorry, Rahul, take it away. I know you have.
Now I would say I would let Pradeep take it away first. And then
I can just talk about what I've seen out there. I haven't actually tried this myself. But now you can make these SDR avatars you can make an AI face, you can make an AI basically profile on LinkedIn if you wanted to. All you have to do is make an email. You can make a Gmail account. You can make your own email account for them with your domain on it. Add them as your company. Give them a face. Give them a profile. Give them a name. Give them a few connections, and no one's going to be able to tell the difference between a real AI, an AI and a real person, which is kind of scary these days. They can't make phone calls quite yet, but they can do videos. And I think it's maybe now if you're doing it, like one SDR could use like 3 different AI SDRs and send out like 3 times the amount of messages that are going out as different people. So if you want to get around another way of like going through the system where, you don't want to be able to send out like 5,000 emails from one address, you can use all these AI SDRs. So each of them send 1,000 emails out. There's 5 of them. You have 5,000, and you have your SDR in the background kind of like puppeteering and making sure that everything's going. They're there to answer the phone calls if someone replies. They're there to actually get on the phone and engage with them if they think someone should be engaging with. And it kind of goes with what Rahul was saying before, that, if now you were expected to use a lot less human SDRs and have a lot more output that was there before. And these AI SDRs can help you do that. I've also seen AI agents that can do your research for you too. So the spreadsheet that Rahul had made, they can actually do that research and fill the spreadsheet out for you. So now, you can get your messages in 5 seconds. You can get your spreadsheet filled out in maybe like 20 minutes. And then you can send out thousands and thousands of emails or LinkedIn connections to people by using that system that way. So I think there's a future to it. I'm not exactly sure what it's going to look like because it just started seeing a lot of these tools kind of pop up. But if I'm making my own SDR team, instead of hiring 10 SDRs, I'll just hire 2 SDRs and have each of them kind of handle on the back end about those like 5 AI agents are doing. And now I have a 7 SDR team, and only paying for 2 of them. It's kind of like something to think about, negotiate with.
No, I mean,
but
that's. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Rahul, these have to be 2 super smart SDRs, because if they have to figure out all these different tools, and, how to put them to use, but granted, I mean, this is going to give an unfair advantage to a company that figures this out and cracks the code on it, isn't it, Rahul?
Exactly. I think that's what companies are also doing. However, we also have to take the other side to it, right? It's like a very sharp tool, if it's not done right. I mean, especially for founders, there might be that affinity. Oh, you know what? Why, instead of hiring a human and taking the responsibility, why don't I hire AI SDR who's going to do the rest of the job for me? Understand that these as AI SDR would also require a lot of prompting, a lot of information to be fed first once they're perfect. So that will take some time. So if you have to understand why you're going to do this. So like Pradeep said, if Pradeep with some years of experience, if she knows instead of building a team of 10, I can build a team of 2, where I can train these people to actually manage the output of 10. That's fairly doable. However, somebody like a founder who has not done this might be a double-edged sword. You never know where this might go, because if your TAM is too small, you end up you might get greedy and say, hey, I'm going to fire 5,000 emails a day and burn out your entire TAM in 3 months, and then what are you going to do? So you have to be very cautious. And one thing which I would advise is, if you really want to experiment with AI SDR, just do an A/B testing. Okay. Hire 2 AI SDR, hire 2 human SDRs. If AI SDR win, I would say fire the humans.
Or keep at least 1 human. And again, that's what we're kind of talking about with like the role changing. The way I used to hire SDRs was that if you were good at sports, I would hire them, and that would be it. That'd be like one of the only qualifications we had at one of my jobs was like, did they play lacrosse, like competitively? Because they were like very competitive in nature. They would do the phone calls, and you just give them the script that Rahul was talking about that doesn't work anymore. You're like, hey, send out 100 emails, do 100 calls, make maybe 10 connections, and then you can go home for the day, whatever. Like that used to work, but now it's like, I could email or talk to 200 people. I might not get a meeting set because I just don't know what's going on. And there's, people are already out there that are in my market and competitive. It's also a lot easier to make a startup now than it was before. So I think everyone has just a lot more competitors in the market than there ever has been in the past, especially if you're an AI tool. I feel like there's an AI tool with anything, and there's like 10 different tools that can all do very similar things. And with the way the market is today, no one's going to buy 5 different tools to do like each one doing something different like they were doing in 2018 and 2019. So I think if you're doing the AI version of things, I think it's a smart way to do it. But I think you really have to be careful about those 2 humans that you bring on board. They have to be very smart. They have to be very competitive. And they have to be able to like do that prompting that Rahul was talking about. They have to be able to read the prompts and make sure it makes sense. You know, you don't want to be managing them on a day-to-day of like making sure that the prompts are right, because that's going to make your life very miserable very fast.
Yeah, and the other thing I was going to add was obviously if your business you're targeting the mid-market, then don't go burn your mid-market prospects, right? With the initial testing phase, you go test down market, right? Maybe some customers you might lose them, but you know there's some brand call it impact because the way they message wasn't quite right or whatever, right? So so that's the other thought I had as I was listening to both of you. It almost feels like just like you have product development and and market development, here you have sales process development, right? You have to kind of figure out how you're going to build the right sales process and put it in place. I mean, there's a whole science to it. There's an art to it. Yeah. Would you
I
agree,
test
Pradesh?
everything. Yeah, I test everything down market before we go up market. Because again, you don't want to be burning your executive contacts to make sure something's working. And usually there's a little bit of a difference of like connection sometimes. Maybe you might have to tweak the messaging when you go up a little bit more. But it's a lot easier. You have a lot more people to test with. You have a lot more contacts to test. They won't even remember. Sometimes we'll go through and we'll email someone we emailed like a month ago and they won't remember it. And then we'll get the meeting that second time because we have like the messaging dialed in a little bit more. It really is funny. It's like a really, really weird thing. Unless you said something that like really made someone angry, they're not going to remember you either. And so I wouldn't worry about burning all your Rahul said no, he's going to argue with me on that. I don't like it. I won't worry about it too much on it. You shook your head.
No, I just had a long day. I probably got it without realizing it.
Oh no worries. Like I don't think like you don't have to worry about like don't email 5,000 people at once. Email like 100 or 200. Like start with smaller numbers and then slowly ramp yourself up as you're going. And then once you're good at doing one set, like get one SDR maybe, and then maybe that's an easier way to transition from yourself off founder-led sales to SDR-led sales. Then train that one SDR, and like they better stay with you because that'll be the SDR that knows how to make everything work. And once you're working with one SDR, then maybe bring on a second SDR, and if your budget allows it, maybe a third SDR. But again, like I don't foresee seeing SDR teams in America, like the American-based ones. I don't see them being more than 5 people teams in this market in like the next couple of years because it's too expensive. It's so expensive. Still not about that.
And so the expectations are a lot higher, right, on US-based SDRs. I mean, there's so much higher.
Yeah. Out of what Pradesh said, she said like it's gonna be expensive. It's gonna be expensive. I can hear this in my head playing all over again.
Yeah. So, but guys, can you just, as we wrap this up, talk about what is real today in terms of AI SDR? What is possible today, literally today, for call it the typical SaaS company out there, or even I would say even mid-market companies who probably should start experimenting, right? They should have a little effort, side project, a little pilot project on trying this AI SDR approach, isn't it? But yeah, what's today? Yeah, Pradesh.
The one thing I really want to test is that there's all these AI tools that can take a video of the founder talking and then make it like a digital twin of the founder. And then the SDR can type in the speech and then we can make the founder say that talk. And so some of them just change the name. Some of it changes a company name. Some of them, I don't think you can do a full speech quite yet, but you can change bits and pieces of that speech to say something else based on what the founder is saying. That's an interesting one. They can't call. They can't be you and actually make the phone calls as you right now. I think the AI that you're seeing still requires a lot of human intervention, which I know like a lot of the demos pretend that you can do it. I saw the OpenAI demo. I was like, oh, I took an image and it read the image. And then I tried it myself and was like, I can't do that. I'm like, oh, okay, great. So you have to be really careful with what you do. And I would have you test everything yourself before you give it over to an SDR to run for you, because it's so scary just thinking about how much things that they could create terribly without proper like management and mentorship.
Got it. So one thing I would like to add is I was reading this, how much money OpenAI made last year. It was, I think, 2 or 3 billion. And then I was reading how much money KPMG and these consultants made last year was about 150 or 200 billion. Okay. And that happened because of what Pradesh just said. because these people are selling the implementation. If AI would actually not change the world. It'll be the people who can implement it. It'll be the people who can actually know how to use it. What you're seeing, what I just showed you, probably took me 6 months, going over and again, iterating our message, checking the sequence rate, checking open rate, checking, how is it performing. So that, I'm not saying the prompt is perfect, so I'm pretty sure somebody can take this prompt and actually make it 10 times better. But the point is that somebody has to put in that work today. So it's just another tool, and you know how to use it. If you don't know how to use it, and I see these emails all the time because people apply to our school all the time. And I just this evening I was giving a feedback, and we published a guide. We had to publish a guide recently of 50 words not to use, because I see these words all the time because everybody's using ChatGPT, enhance, elevate, transform. I've seen these words so much that they've lost the meaning in my head. So if you think about this is what is amplifying now. So if your messaging is bad, if you're bad at something, ChatGPT and AI tools are just going to make it 10 times worse. So I would say what Pradeep said, you perfect plus the 100 emails, then you start about scaling or think about anything in those lines.
So thanks, guys. That's pretty much brings us to the end of the hour. So let me begin the wrap up here. So I'm going to put up the one slide we have with our contacts, or our names, or LinkedIn's, and emails. And love to hear from folks who are watching, who are listening. And please feel free to reach out to any of us. So real quick, here it is. Just sharing my slide here. So thanks again, Rahul, Pardees, for joining us here today for the topic, which was scaling sales outreach with AI and automation. Here's our LinkedIn and emails. And welcome all of the folks listening to stay in touch on the Quanzu company page. I know you guys have offered to put some follow-up information material over there. That'd be amazing, I'm sure, for our audience. And that's it, guys. Thanks for joining. Bye for now.
Thank you so much, Mani, for having us. Have a good one.